Well, hello, friends. Welcome one and welcome all. I can't offer much in this outdoor hall, but sit here and rest. You must be weary, and I'll share with you Tales of Tyria. Yes, this week on Tales of Tyria, we've got a whole lot of stuff to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Most importantly, we're talking about the Elementalist. But before that, we've got some news. Guild Wars 2 breaks 2 million sales, the flip jump, and, well, a launch trailer? Yes, welcome one and welcome all. Welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Tyria right here. I am Bridger. I'll be your host for this evening for your Guild Wars 2 podcast for discussion, insight, and stratagem. Stratagem or strategy? I was trying to go with both of them, kind of molded it together. It was a good time. Anyway, we are almost live from the great free city of Lion's Arch. As you can see right here, we're in the Cloud Skimmer Tavern. It's great that they have us back here every week. We only break about half of it every time we come, but she's still standing, so we're just going to keep coming back. Glad you got a hold of the program, however you may have found it. Tell a friend or three, won't you? I have just introduced myself yet again. I am Bridger, and let me introduce you to everybody else that we've got coming on here. We have iDrops, also live from Lion's Arch, and I didn't actually get that. Man, let's just put to the main screen. There we go. Also live from Lion's Arch, as you can see by the Mystic Forge.
Awkward. What's up, everybody? Ellie Extraordinaire. Nice to be here.
Indeed. Welcome, sir, fellow Elementalist. And as you can see, we also have Miane from Team Legacy as well, also a fellow Elementalist, here to bring us the PvP insight on the Elementalist. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad at all. So, this is the week of the faceless avatars.
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
That's how he looks in real life, guys. It's true. That's how it is. All right, so did you guys do anything interesting, anything awesome this week in Guild Wars 2?
I mean, isn't everything awesome in Guild Wars 2?
Well, you got me there, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything particularly awesome this week?
Miane, how's the tournament scene going?
Yeah, tournaments are actually working, so that's a big surprise there.
Wow, you're talking. It sounds like you're not necessarily talking about the same game that just made 2 million sales. You're like, well, it's a good thing the game's working. That's good. That's good so far.
Personally, tournaments have been doing a lot better. I mean, rewards are finally working, and the servers have not been crashing as often as they used to. So that's good.
Absolutely. So I guess that has something to do with the 2 million sales that they announced a couple of times, and that'll jump us into our news segment this week. Because wow, 2 million sales in less than a month, I guess you could say. What do you guys think? Is that something along what you predicted, or is it more popular or less popular?
I'd say it's right at what I was thinking it was going to be. So it's not really something that's, you know, out of the blue for me. I honestly believe that the game is, you know, very much worthy of that type of sales. So it doesn't necessarily strike me as being odd.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I thought only like 500 people that I saw day by day in the Heart of the Mist bought the game, to be honest.
I didn't know there was these other people playing. Oh my god. The other thing is, it's probably one of the best values you can get, short of like the orange box, right? Or Civilization 5. You know, as far as hours of play per dollar. You know, Guild Wars 2, I've already played more for $60 than a ton of other games combined that I bought. You know, there's only a few contenders that live up there in the 100+ hour mark, which is something like, you know, for me, Team Fortress or Left 4 Dead, you know, a lot of those replayable kind of multiplayer first-person shooters. Battlefield series is certainly in there. So it's certainly earned its money with me. So I'm going to stop now and cancel the podcast. See you guys later. Oh, no, wait. No, it's still got more
later,
life in it.
dude.
Still got more life in it, as it turns out. So, next up in the news this week, World v World is now going to weekly cycles instead of daily cycles. So, Miane, I know that you only sit on a treb all day in World v World, but how do you see this affecting your trebucheting abilities? Oh my
I
god!
think they're gonna have to add some sort of like portable trebuchets that I can carry around because 1 week is a long time. But I mean, those 24-hour matches were getting kind of boring. I mean, you know how the big push at the beginning, every single time you're switching like servers, so you're going against like those very first minutes are really important. So I'm sure like people were getting annoyed of doing the same day by day, logging in just to do that and stuff.
It appears that the other two servers that we're matched up against are getting bored of doing the same thing day by day. I just saw that. It was bad before, but wow, that is actually something that we had feared, is that if one server is doing really well, that one or both of the other servers will just give up and stop trying. And that's what it looks like when they give up and stop trying. That's not that, you know, our server is doing super freaking awesome and amazing and we're dominating them that much. That's them not being there. Because when they're there, they have, you know, 15 or 25% between the two of them. That seems to be a problem, because we still got like 5 days left, and nobody's going to have fun doing World versus World, are they?
Yeah, that is true too.
Yeah, I mean, what you're seeing here is kind of a product of just a misplacement as far as our server is concerned within the ranking structure, because it is a newly formed server. So we were put down a tier below because we didn't accumulate enough points during the point tally time, whatever they called it or whatever. But basically, exactly what you're saying, Bridger, is once a server gets up in these week-long matches, it's like the other two servers just disappear. They've lost their morale drops, they've lost their will to keep trying, and then it just balloons out of control. Ideally, you'd like to see all the servers at the exact same population level and skill level so that you have an active World versus World 24/7 for that entire week, but more realistically, with the current situation as far as the server pops are concerned, that's only going to happen in very rare circumstances. So I think we were all pretty much kind of strung out after the 24-hour sessions. Getting, you know, you have to get in there right when the server resets at 7 Eastern, you know, to get those potential points rolling right away and get your dominance established. Otherwise, you just fall too far behind too quickly, and you don't have enough time to catch back up. So everybody was like staying up for, you know, 24-hour play sessions back to back to back, and it was a little too much, to be honest. So I think we're all pretty happy to see the match style now spread out to that what is it, 5 to 7 days now?
I think it's supposed to be a week, so we'll see how long they're going to stick with the 1 week matchups. To be honest, I was actually expecting more servers at launch. Like, I imagined, you know, 50 servers, and then, you know, the top 10 or so would be the kind of spots that were really competitive. But it looks like there's only about top 3 or 4 that really play super hardcore in World versus World, and they're like, we've got to get Oceanics on here, and we got to get them organized and make sure there's people in there 24/7, and just basically the man hours, making sure that they're always playing. And you know, so when we have been matched up against the likes of you know, Jade Quarry or Henge of Denravi, it's really intense and fun, and actually I always feel the pressure to, like, I gotta be in there, otherwise I'm letting my bros down. And broettes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Broettes, let's be politically correct. So for those of you that can't see what we're showing on the screen here, there's let's see, 675 or 675?
Yeah, 675
for our server per 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is, and then plus 10 for each of the other servers. We have like 95% of all of the points on the entire map. So that's definitely a problem. We'll see how ArenaNet, you know, adjusts to this, because, you know, damn near every choice that they make is awesome, and the way that they fix problems is always unique and interesting. So we'll definitely see if this is something that gets on their radar, or if it's something that balances itself out over time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have faith in them, that's for sure. I was concerned initially that let's say the top 3 servers are playing each other, and then that low team gets dropped out of that tier. Basically, the person who came in, the server that came in last place for that big match, gets dropped down a tier, and the difference is like night and day between those two tiers. It goes from a really, really close, intense matchup for the whole duration of the match to, like, okay, I haven't logged in World versus World in 2 days, and my server's winning by 700 points. You know, it's like, I don't know what they're going to do about that to combat the huge discrepancies as far as population are concerned, but hopefully they got some pretty good ideas.
Yeah, there's plenty of things you can do to give people reason to go into World versus World and fight, even even for, 10 or 15 points. Because really what we're seeing here is people saying, well, the other team has more than both of our servers combined right now in terms of total score, and they're clearly better or more organized or just have more people than us. What's the point if we're not going to win, or we have no chance of winning? There's no point. It's just going to feel frustrating to constantly lose points over and over again. Yeah. So you have to give them some reason to scrap just for the 5 or 10 points, or even, if they were actually trying, the 25, 40, 50 points that they could get. It feels like there needs to be a reason to have just those few points. So we'll see if there's something they can do about that. But something they can't do anything about is how terrible, terrible this was. Is that a desert scene? Is that desert? I think it's desert. Oh no, wait. It's some guy frozen. It's like he's stuck. Why is he stuck? What is this?
Stood by. Paralyzed.
Oh, he's paralyzed. Why is he paralyzed? He's got blood and
fear and doubt.
Fear and doubt. He's got fire under his skin. Why? I don't understand.
Molten skin?
Vulcan skin. Oh, this guy. He's running. There's police sirens. He's got a gas mask. He's a terrorist. He's running from the cops. This is for the secret world, I can tell you. Yep, look at he's making...
For those who dream of a better world.
Yep, definitely.
The time has come.
Or maybe APB?
To open our eyes.
Whoa, it's a chick. I didn't see that. That was good.
Those graphics.
Yeah.
Rise up.
Is that Storm from X-Men?
I don't know. But now they've got a bunch of, college kids drinking the Kool-Aid here, and, you can walk on fire, buddy. Totally. Let's do it. You got a David
What's the point
Blaine.
of Vulcan and Co?
And now, wait, why are we swimming underwater? Is this the new Mario?
Oh, I think I saw this in 2012, that movie where the world ends.
Girl in nothing but a thin cotton dress while underwater shot? I don't know.
I'm okay with that. I'm honestly okay with that.
Our time.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Tattoos
I'm liking
coming out of
this.
nowhere.
Oh, she's a Nord.
Oh my god, it's Guild Wars 2! What?
I honestly wanted to see the guy transforming into a char.
Yeah, where's the guy transforming into a char? That's no fair. All we saw was the hot chick transforming into a Nord. And then, spoilers, Zaitan shows up.
Oh, man.
What is that about? Our time is now. Yeah, I'm still not...
I'm not getting it either.
The best
What the
thing...
hell did we just watch?
I have no clue. But the best comment I saw was, good guy ArenaNet sees the secret world is failing, makes a trailer for them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was an artsy
saw that,
piece.
I was just... I was totally speechless. I couldn't put my emotions into words of what I was watching, but... yeah, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. All kinds of people have been trying to defend it and say something like, oh, well, you see, it's an art piece. This is metaphorical, and it's about the Guild Wars 2 breaking the mold of old MMOs and sort of rebelling against that genre, dude.
So what you're trying to tell him is that I can walk on fire.
I think so.
I want what they were smoking, that's for sure.
You know what I think it was? Some marketing guys let's just show a bunch of hot young college students hanging around a fire, enjoying themselves, and try to get that attached to Guild Wars 2 somehow. And that's just morphed into this. If we just make kids think if they play Guild Wars 2, they too can attend a beach party with a bunch of other young, good-looking people and walk on fire.
You can have a social life by
Yes.
playing this game.
I think that's what they were doing.
Incredible.
Oh, man. Yeah,
How much time do you think they spent on that? Their production team, whoever was doing that.
That's a good question. They must have hired that out. I can't imagine that's an actual ArenaNet production. I don't know. I don't want to think it anyway.
You don't want to believe?
I don't want to believe. As Demoiselle says in the chat room, a trailer that needs an explanation is a bad trailer. But other people have pointed out a trailer that makes you go, what the hell did I just watch? makes you talk about it to other people. Because now you go to somebody else and say, I just saw this trailer for Guild Wars 2 that was the most terrible piece of blah I've ever seen, and now you're talking about Guild Wars 2. So
yeah,
maybe
the shock and awe campaign.
That's it. It's subversive.
There
It's
you go.
like subliminal or something. Now we're talking about it. Damn it!
On the
Curses!
same note, ArenaNet, if you're listening and you guys want a bomb trailer, I would be more than happy to put one together for you guys that could probably beat that one that we just watched.
You would just make your Elementalist dance, wouldn't you?
There you go.
All right. So, yeah, enough of that. It was a really weird trailer. I don't even. So anyway, let's talk about flips. Eyedrops, did you know there's such a thing as a dodge jump?
I
Jump
did.
dodge?
As a matter of fact,
I did not.
I've pulled it off numerous times, and I've actually almost mastered the ability,
The timing?
and it's fantastic.
It really is. And for those of you that are not familiar with this, yes, that was actually a jump dodge, what you saw right there. This is when you hit jump and dodge at exactly the same moment, and it's superior visually to the normal dodge. Let's put it that way. Oh man, look at that backflip. He went much farther than a normal dodge, and he backflipped through the air. In addition to all of that. Now, the other claim is that you can do this and it will make you jump as far as you normally do out of combat, but you can do this in combat and still get the long range. Is that true?
Say that again?
clue.
So
I'm
you know
sorry.
how when you enter combat, your character slows down, right?
Right.
Which means when you try to do a jumping puzzle and somebody shoots you with an arrow and you enter combat right as you're about to jump, you fall to your death.
Correct.
So the claim is that you can do this particular jump and it still goes the distance even when you're in combat.
You mean there's an actual use for it other than just looking cool?
That's what I am told.
Mind blown.
It does
I
make
need-
sense though.
I need
Because, you're getting the altitude from the jump, but you're using the dodge, which is not affected really by being in combat.
So I tried to look up, I tried to go through this video and find this guy. Man, his video's dark. I tried to find him like in combat doing a jump or something like that, and so far I haven't been able to. But maybe it's in here. I don't know. There's a link in the show notes to it. It's very interesting, and now you can look way more badass because you listened to Tales of Tyria and or read Reddit along with the other 50,000 people that do.
For those interested in pulling this move off, it is almost. I just pulled it off there for you right there live, but you're almost jumping and dodging at the same time. It's actually the jump is cued just before the dodge. There's just a small millisecond difference there.
You can see people around Eyedrops trying to do it right now.
Everybody's in Lion's Arch. We should do this every week. We should just have a camera in Lion's Arch of the audience, and they can like all do /sit and /cheer when they agree and /boo when they disagree. Is there a /boo? There should be if there isn't.
We need to learn the emotes for
Yeah.
sure.
To the wiki! No, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. We must move
Yeah.
on. All right.
Pro tip, you can actually type /wiki and it will open the wiki for you.
Yes, it will, which is awesome. Oops, I don't want to contact Stumbler. Go away. Why is this here? I don't want to share it. Stupid social networking. I hate social. All right. So, John Smith on the state of the Guild Wars 2 economy. This is them going, yeah, we noticed there's a lot of things on the trading post sitting at vendor price, and we realize people are losing money on that. So what we did was we created a bunch of temporary special magic mystic forge recipes to get rid of the surplus items while we try to shift the supply and demand, which I wonder if that means they're going to A, increase the recipe cost involving anything with wood or iron, or just make trees and nodes drop 2 things instead of 3. That's certainly possible. And then rich nodes will be that much more awesome. But what they did was they said, well, while adjusting the supply and demand, we will bring markets closer to the non-vendor-based equilibrium. There is still the matter of the massive surplus that currently exists. To address this surplus, we've created new limited-time Mystic Forge recipes that use these items. These recipes create boxes that give chances for gold and some cool items. So then there's a picture, and it's very simple. It's got a glob of ectoplasm, a mystic coin, and then 250 stacks of either 250 stacks of butter, greenwood dowels, greenwood logs, soft logs, or hardwood logs, or iron ore. So if you go to the Mystic Forge, that will potentially create boxes and give you chances for gold or cool items. Why didn't you give us a demonstration? You don't have any ecto. Damn it!
No, I can do it for you if you want. Honestly, though, I think it's a misstep because they could have got rid of all of that stuff much easier if they hadn't put two of the most valuable things in the game as part of the recipe. It's ridiculous to me. Like
Butter.
No, ecto and mystic coins. Like I'm sure many people have been reading Reddit or whatever. The full legendary recipe has been, figured out and posted, so it's there for public knowledge, and that contains both of those things in mass quantity. So I'm not about to waste my ectos and my mystic coins on some whatever item that they're trying to. I think it's a portable mystic forge, right?
Well, it says these recipes create boxes that give chances for gold and some cool items. So it's, I guess it's a gambling thing.
Oh, like some everlasting tonics and things
Perhaps.
like that.
Yeah.
Like seriously, if this would happen maybe a month down the road after I've already got my legendary and
yeah, but what do you need? One glob of ecto and a mystic coin. Come on, those can't be that valuable.
Yeah, but you're not going to get everything you want out of the box on your first try.
You're right. It's like a drug. I've got to try it with another ecto and another.
Oh, I was just unlucky. I'll do it again.
Yeah,
and again and again. And then you're broke.
And then you're broke. And then you got no ecto, and no one likes you because you don't have ecto anymore. All right.
Infinite sadness.
So, with all that having been said, let's jump over to the mailbag, ladies and gentlemen. This is from Korean Kin, a ranger on Henge of Denravi. He says, quote, "Hey, I love the cast, top notch. Let me tell you, there are some bad podcasts out there for Guild Wars 2, and be proud, you are the best. Congratulations, guys. Unquote. Congratulations, guys. You get to be on the best podcast. The last week's episode, nothing, because this guy said this one's the best. All right.
Oh, yeah.
My question is, should DPS meters be added to Guild Wars 2? As a PvEer, I want to be able to min-max, but also want a way to measure myself. In dungeons, I find bosses take a long time to kill. I'd love a way to see some stats afterwards. I think people have a really binary look at damage meters. 1, they are elitist and do not matter. 2, they are an invaluable tool. Only noobs do not use them. Please discuss. I keep coming up with builds, but have no way to easily see which one has better or worse damage. Maybe I was just a spoiled WoW nerd with World of Logs." Unquote. All right, Miane, Mr. PvP for this show.
Yeah.
Would damage meters help you perfect your build?
Not really, because there's really so much more than just doing damage. There's usually when we're looking at bringing any profession into PvP, we're not just looking at how high your numbers can go, right? Like, we look at the utility you bring, we look at the kind of mitigation they have, and all this other stuff. So it wouldn't really make a difference for me in PvP. I'm not quite sure about PvE, but no, I don't need DPS meters in PvP.
All right, eye drops, Mr. Dungeons. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the guy has... What was the guy's name again?
Korean Kin.
Shout out to Korean Kin. But he has a valid concern, okay? Like, in order to min-max in the PvE area of the game, you have to know what you're doing. And if there's nothing you can look at other than combat logs, it's very hard to decipher, small little tweaks that you make to your build in order to really get that maximum whatever you're attempting to do. If it's maximum healing, maximum damage, maximum tanking, well, I don't think that's really necessarily a factor, but I mean, it's valid. The parsers, or damage meters as the WoW guys like to call them, have been around since the very first MMOs, and they were always a really valuable tool to any group or solo person that was really trying to get the most out of their tunes or characters. And without that option, to really go in depth and look at what you're really doing on that actual numbers level, it makes it, there's kind of like a guessing game. So I can understand his concern, but realistically, the way the game is playing right now, you can pretty much do whatever you want with whatever profession, right? So, like, if you want to be a support Ellie, if you want to be a DPS Ellie, blah, blah, blah. And even if you spec really hard one direction, you're still able to contribute the opposite thing. So let's say I spec to be a support elementalist. I can still put out tons of damage, like ridiculous amounts of damage for being basically completely defensively statted via consumables and other methods. There's some like traits and things that you can pick that convert defensive stats to offensive stats, things like that. But I would like to see it in like some kind of testing environment. Like in Guild Wars 1, if you played Guild Wars 1, there was the Master of Damage, I think his name was. You could take your team there, your arena team, your guild team or whatever, and you could practice spiking on it. You could practice sustained damage and degen pressure and things like that. And then after a certain amount of time, he would tell you how much damage you've done to him over however much time. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a very valuable tool, and they could easily throw that into like the Heart of the Mists, for example.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't want to see meters on everybody's screens, as they already said they don't want mods and things like that, but any type of in-game tool that people are looking at while they're doing dungeons and like, lol, oh my god, I'm totally schooling you on the parse, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't need that in this game at all, ever. So
yeah, that will be terrible.
I think as far as they should ever even consider taking it is possibly replicating that Master of Damage type NPC in the Heart of the Mists.
That's what I could definitely see happening, and specifically, I mean, they've already got all those golems. They could easily have a thing where after the golem dies, it like in its death throes, it reads out, you know, damage input equals 12.6 DPS or, you know, whatever. You know, they could just read a damage, you know, 12,600 damage over 500, you know, over 5 seconds, and, you know, with 1,000 toughness mitigation, or, you know, whatever, any kind of cool thing like that. That could easily work.
One thing though, I hope ArenaNet doesn't forget, we have all these DPS like DPS trial waypoint, underwater ones. We have the NPCs, but we have no healing, like
nothing that'll hit you.
Yeah. Yeah, we have nothing that if you want to test out like your healing, you got to go fall off a cliff or buy one of those NPCs.
I've heard Yane say so many times in TeamSpeak, hey, how about you go jump off that cliff real quick so I can heal you? Like, I've heard that probably 3 dozen times in the past week. Like, seriously. That
At the very least, make a waypoint that says like cliff waypoint so I can just teleport there and start jumping down and test out my healing.
Yeah. Cliff waypoint. Jump here to test healing. I could totally see that happening. All right. Fix the link to the show notes there. Sorry, guys, I had the wrong one. All right, so speaking of show notes, if you guys want to check out any of the links that we talked about in this episode, go to talesoftyria.com. The show notes for episode number 49 will be there. And before we continue to the main segment, I did want to first thank Korean Kin for the question, and also wanted to send a get well soon message to Tim, a.k.a. Faint, from the Eon Nocturne Guild on Sea of Sorrows. Apparently, we answered his question last week on the show, or maybe the week before. I think it was last week. And then shortly afterwards, he got into a car accident. So I know he's in the hospital now. So hopefully this shout-out makes you feel better, buddy. And hope you're appreciating the podcast while you're there. Hopefully we can
get better soon.
Yeah, get well soon. There we go. So so definitely looking to move on now to the Elementalist Roundtable. I don't have anything special. I can't control the elements in real life.
Don't you have like a soundboard now?
I gotta set that up every time. That was custom coded for me. I gotta set it up every time. I could bring it. Maybe I'll set it up next week. All
Wait,
right.
so can we welcome fire in this segment, just like the trailer? No? Yes.
Yes. Now we can walk on fire because we are elementalists. That's how it works.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Excellent. So, and as elementalists, let's break that word down, shall we? Because it's very important that we talk about the definitions of things. So, elementalist comes from L, as in the tropical storm, L, and then mentalist, this guy here, Patrick Jane. So, L, storm, plus the mentalist equals elementalist.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yes, now you understand, and we can move on. So let's pull up here the wiki, because the wiki knows all. We're going to talk all kinds of stuff about the Elementalist, and if you want to follow along, this would be a good place to go, because the wiki has probably the best set of statistics and information discussing the traits and skills that the Elementalist has. But first, before we go there, let's talk about the attunements. because obviously the unique ability of the Elementalist is swapping between multiple attunements. And for the purposes of this discussion, let's try to explain everything we're talking about. Because if I say, you know, oh man, I really like that staff 5, you guys are going to know what I'm talking about. The Elementalists in the audience are going to know what I'm talking about. But the guy who plays a Mesmer is going to be like, I don't know, I couldn't make it on the podcast today, and so instead I'm going to troll the chat, you know, because so, hi, freelancer. So let's try to explain when we're talking about skills. Don't just mention what their name is, mention what exactly that they do. So moving into this, attunements. So the main thing about the Elementalist is they get one weapon and they can swap through the 4 attunements. So eye drops, do you normally like swapping through attunements to get various abilities, or do you tend to stick in one attunement for any given situation?
That's a very good question, and I can answer that 100% that I enjoy switching attunements. That's where I find the skill cap is in playing the Elementalist. Like, anybody can sit in an attunement and, you know, Meteor Shower, Lull, Lava Font, all these different abilities, and just stay and do damage, or go into water and just heal. But where the Elementalist really becomes a viable profession is when you start switching those attunements and weaving your spells together in order to get the maximum effect. And I focus so much on that, I actually always go 30 points in Arcane just to get those faster attunement switches, just for that specific reason.
Indeed.
Miyane, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the whole thing about being an Elementalist is knowing how to like manage all your skills through all the different attunements. And I agree that basically I feel forced right now to go 30 in Arcane because I just can't live with like really long cooldowns on my attunement swap.
For
So,
people
yeah.
that don't play Elementals, the default cooldown, if you switch away from fire, for example, and you go into earth in order to try and throw some kind of a immobilize or a stun on them, or some kind of a snare, for example, and then you want to shift back to fire to throw down more damage or to set burning up or something to that effect, you have to wait 15 seconds by default. And for when you throw 30 points of arcane in there, that brings it down to 9 seconds. So that really is a significant difference. And I'm in agreement with both of you guys here. I run 30 arcane everything that I do, basically, because that 9 seconds is way easier to shift. You know, usually what that means is if I'm in fire and I set them on fire and do a little bit of damage, then I'll jump into earth to keep somebody in place with a little bit of immobilize. Maybe I'll get to bleeding them a little bit, and then I'll jump into maybe I'll blind them once, then I'll jump into air to blind them again. And by the time I've done all that, fire's back up, and then I have the option to go into fire. Or if I need to get some regeneration, I can go into water. But having those options available as often as possible is really the key here. So, do you think the cooldown is too long by default because you have to feel like you have to put 30 points in arcane, or is that a playstyle thing?
Yeah, I actually think that it is too long because the thing is, like, you don't get this much recharge out of any single, like, the very most you will find is like 30 recharge in terms of like trades for, like, let's say utility skills, and like this being a core, like such a core mechanic for your profession, I do believe that it is too long of a cooldown by default. I mean, it's forcing you to go 30 to be able to do all these combinations across all the attunements, so... Yeah, I would like to see them being brought down and cooled down, so it doesn't make that big of a difference.
Eye drops, what would be a good number? It's like for default and then putting 30 points in arcane.
Well, I mean, if they're lowering it, right, then are we still keeping the cooldown reduction on the arcane line?
I think that's something that I would still keep. I would just make it less dramatic.
Okay.
So,
well, for me, I think the duration that really the Elementalist starts to shine is 12 or less. Like, that's doable and not a complete pain in the ass to play. So I would probably start it right around 12 seconds as far as attunement switches. And then maybe if you did put 30 into arcane, I could see 8 or 7 seconds. I think if you get any less than that, it's probably going to become imbalanced to where then they have to start tweaking things again. So I don't think, you know, they would keep the same ratios or whatever. Because if you lowered the base to 12 and then you had the same ratios, then it would go all the way down to 6 seconds, right? So that's
something like that, yeah.
That's just too short. So I would say not going past 7 or 8. That's probably the sweet spot for maximum cooldown reduction on your attunement switching.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement. That was the number I was thinking. 12 to 9 or 12 to 8 probably makes the most sense. At least get 4 seconds out of the deal. And that, I think, would make me feel less impulsive to go all the way to 30 in Arcane. I still might want to go 30 in Arcane because there's some really cool major traits at the end of that. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the trait section. But right now it feels like I have to go there. And if I'm going there already, I might as well use some arcane spells or try to get some good synergy in those traits and things. So let's move on to talking about the weapons. And we're going to weave in and out of PvP and World versus World. We're going to talk about all kinds of things here. So just make sure that when we talk about these things, describe, for PvE, this weapon is good for this and this is why. So let's talk staff. What's the staff good for?
Staff's good for a lot of things. I'll let Miane handle the SPVP side of things because he's obviously specialized in that, and I know he likes to play a lot of staff Ellie. But staff, as far as PvE and World vs. World is concerned, is really the go-to weapon. If you're grouping up and doing dungeons, staff provides the most support. It provides the most AoE damage. It provides the most damage, period. And it definitely has the, I guess it's just the best all-around weapon. There's nothing really bad about the staff as far as dungeon grinding is concerned. And I know we got some people in chat saying they disagree, and that's totally fine. But this is legit. And in World vs. World, as far as staff is concerned, if you're not using a staff, you're doing it wrong. The skills that that you can bring to the table with the staff as an Elementalist in World vs. World are just are too important to your group, to yourself, and to your server, for that matter, to not be using a staff. Meteor Shower, Healing Rain, all of your CC abilities like Static Field, your ability to speed up your area as far as getting from point to point, things like that. Like, staff is really the go-to weapon in pretty much all situations for World vs. World and PvE.
All right, so Miane, PvP, he mentioned that you play a lot of staff. Now, a lot of people I know talk about PvP, and they say, oh, Dagger is all the way, or Scepter Dagger, really good for, like, 1v1. What are your thoughts? Staff, PvP.
I do believe that staff has actually a lot of utility other than, just raw damage or healing. It has, number one, the most fields in the game. It also has, really low cooldown blast. Like, we see Eruption being one of the lowest cooldown blasts that I've seen so far. It brings a lot of control, and that is really important right now in capture the point style of game. I personally play support whenever I go staff, simply because, well, it really synergizes well with the whole trait lines that I take, which are usually arcane and water. The thing about staff also is that you can be also kind of glass cannon and still do well because the ratios on every single ratio in staff is good. What
do you mean by ratio? Explain that.
Ratio will be how good the skill scales, like the damage with in relation to power. So every point that you get with power is the damage increase that it's gonna do to your skill.
So a ratio would be like 0.45, meaning that 45% of your power is added as direct damage onto, for example, a fireball. I don't know if that's the actual number, but that's just an example.
Yeah, and they usually have also really high base damage. For example, staff number 2 in water, it does around, it has a base of around 1.4k damage. So yeah, all the ratios are kind of crazy on staff. Not to mention that it's also AoE, so I love staff in SPVP.
So let me see here. So what else are we going to talk about? So what do you guys think of the different attunements here? What's your favorite one to use in whatever your situation you normally go into? Because I'm a big fan of Earth and Fire on the staff for the most part. That's where I spend most of my time.
Right, those are your two primary damage builders as far as staff is if we're talking specifically about staff here. You're going to find yourself rotating between Fire and Earth a lot. You're going to basically cast everything you have in Fire, and then you're going to switch to Earth and cast maybe your 5 skill, which is your Shock Wave, which holds them in place, adds a bleed, and then you're going to cast your number 2 skill. I can't remember the name of it. It's basically an eruption from the ground, right? Which adds 5 stacks of bleed, which is pretty sweet. And then you're also going to tick on your aura for free because it has a separate internal global cooldown, so you can actually cast that while casting another spell. And then you're going to find yourself either switching back to fire or then going to your more support attunements, which basically revolve around water and air. So for water, you're going to be providing healing to your area. You're going to be providing an area slow, adding some vulnerability to the target, but not a lot of damage is coming from your water attunement. As a matter of fact, very little. And then you're going to switch over to air. You can throw out your static field, for some CC, some crowd control to kind of hold things in place if you're fighting a big group of mobs. And then you can also, add swiftness to your group. And then you do have that blind skill that you can throw on if you're attacking a mob that's hitting pretty hard. You can blind them to kind of prevent some of that damage. But definitely for your DPS and staff, you're going to be fire and earth. And then for your more support type ability choices is going to be your water and air attunements.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, when I'm using, staff is what I've been using basically the whole time I was leveling up. There was a period where I decided to grab a scepter dagger to have some fun with, and it was fun until I out-leveled them, and then I didn't want to replace both of them, so I got one staff and felt that was a lot easier to do while I was leveling up. But for the very most part, I use staff in PvP, I use staff... Well, not actually. I had dagger PvE. I use staff in PvE. I use staff in dungeons. I use staff in Worldview World. That's where I go everywhere with it. So to me, it's just amazing. You have almost infinite CC because if you think about it, fire is the only tree that doesn't have CC, but it does have an extra dodge, which is freaking awesome. Burning Retreat lets you give you an extra dodge that throws fire on the ground if something wants to follow you. In water, you've got Frozen Ground, which slows down the enemy, and which is very, very slow, chilling them, which also reduces their cooldown time, or increase their cooldown time. Then you've got Static Field in air, and Gust, which knocks them backwards, and Windborne Speed, which makes you go faster. And then Earth has Unsteady Ground, which cripples people that move through it, and Shockwave, which immobilizes your target and everybody between you and your target and everybody around your target. So it's like, okay, do you want to run away from something and kite it forever and never let it touch you? Staff is your frickin' weapon. I mean, in PvE, it's so easy to take on, like, 5-10 mobs as long as you keep these mass AoE CCs cycling correctly. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, the kite ability of the staff is pretty incredible. And it's important to note that without kiting, you really can't fight anything as an elementalist. Our stats are so horrible as far as our survivability stats without speccing into them that you're not standing and tanking and lawler skating 100 blades groups of mobs in PvE.
Must be in PvE, yes.
That's not going to happen at all. Like you're going to die instantly to whatever you're fighting. You have to kite the mobs. And I think the most important thing to know about the staff is that it really doesn't have a noticeable weakness. All attunements are strong in their own right, and they all bring something to the table. And I think that's why everybody tends to, gravitate towards the staff, and also on top of the ratios that Miane was talking about a little earlier. And I know this guy in chat, this useless medic, he's talking about combo fields and things.
Now, let's not judge. Just because he's in chat doesn't...
Right, no,
he's
it's contributing.
It's his name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. He's contributing to the show here, but he's talking about he finds that combo fields are important, and that's what he likes to focus on. And I think, without actually doing any research other than just my raw knowledge of playing the Ellie, that staff has the most combo fields. So there's that to be noted as well.
Static field is also, I believe, the only lightning field, is it?
I think there's one other.
Hang on, let me see. Lightning field. I'm in the wiki, so bam.
Not exactly sure.
Static field is the only lightning field. Miane wins.
Oh, okay. Oh, but you can get it off the hammer too, though.
Yeah, but I mean...
But it's the same spell.
Oh, Conjure Lightning Hammer. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, it's the same spell. Okay.
Now, that is actually really cool because it's the only thing that allows area swiftness with a blast finisher, which if you didn't know and you're running around in PvE, get Arcane Blast and have a staff, and you have infinite swiftness, especially if you combine it with, what's the healing glyph? Glyph of healing? Is that the one that gives you swiftness?
They should call it the
Glyph of Elemental Harmony.
The glyph of only heal spell you should ever use.
Yeah.
That's what they should.
Because what I do is you go into air, you hit Windborne Speed, which gives you swiftness for what, 10 seconds? 10 seconds of swiftness. Then you hit your Glyph of Elemental Harmony, which, when you're in air, gives you 10 seconds of swiftness. Then you throw down a static field, and then throw your blast finisher on it, which the easiest one is the Arcane Blast, and that gives you, I think, 10 more seconds of swiftness. And by the way, the longest cooldown in those combos is 30 seconds. So you just, congratulations, now have infinite swiftness.
Not to mention, well, actually, did you mention that you can actually switch in and out of air attunement? And if you have the appropriate trait in Arcane, that adds another tick of swiftness to your already
yes, you can do that.
Massive amount of swiftness. So yeah, like basically you get permanent swiftness just from using staff.
You mentioned that there's no downside. The only downside I can think of to the staff, what is this? How did that...
That is the downside?
That is the downside. Where did that come from? I got a virus in my computer. Anyway,
oh man.
The only downside of the staff that I can find is there is one interrupt on the entire staff, and it's the gust that pushes foes back. I mean, technically the status field is also an interrupt, but it only seems to hit foes that are crossing it. So if you see somebody winding up for a massive, like a warrior doing a big hammer slam or something else, and you're trying to stun them or push them back or knock them back, interrupting their attack, the only one you have is gust. There's no other interrupts on the entire staff. That's the only place where I think the staff does have a weakness. I'm not saying that should change, because the staff needs to have a weakness somewhere, but that's probably what the weakness that I would say.
Yeah, another thing about static field that I think is not listed on the tooltip, if you don't cage them first, like if they are inside the static field when you cast it, right, they will be stunned if they try to get out. But if you place a static field somewhere else and then they walk into it, they will be dazed, not stunned.
Really? That's an interesting bug. They said they updated the
I am not sure if it's a bug or if it's a tooltip mistake, which there's a lot of them, but yeah. So if you're trying to stun someone, you got to place the static field on top of them.
But I love, if I'm ever getting in trouble in World versus World, I always just throw a static field on me and run away, and just without fail, everybody that was chasing me runs right into it. Because by the time it actually casts, I'm like 10 feet away, and so it actually winds up casting behind me, encapsulating my foes. It's awesome. So, staff, it's great. Have one, definitely. And I've even had great use in World v World, trying to make everything work. Now, what is the one thing on the staff that you don't like? What's your least favorite skill?
They look really bad. Oh, you missed it.
What?
Miane, go.
In terms of skills, it's really hard to tell, to be honest. They're all really good in their own way. Even if you look at, let's say, the air team, right? You have the number 2. A lot of people think it's useless, but it's actually an AoE blind that has like good damage on it built in. Flame burst.
It takes a while to cast. Yeah, that's sort of the downside to the air 2, the lightning surge. It is an AoE blind, but it's only a very small radius around your foe. So I find it very situational, and I'll only use it if I'm waiting on another attunement to come down.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I don't like it.
But overall, there's really no skills that disappoint me.
Not even water 2?
No, because the thing with water 2, if you respect for damage, it actually does good damage.
It's super strong.
Like the rages on it are good, but like let's say you're conditioned, like you get no benefit from it because condition damage does some benefit from vulnerability. So it really depends on what kind of build you run in as well.
It just doesn't seem like, okay, Ice Spike, it takes about, what is it, 3 or 4 seconds to actually drop. You know, so it's like, oh, well, they have to be, well, 2 seconds. Okay, you're right. It was a little hyperbole there, but it takes a long time, you know, in game time, in instance while fighting a foe to actually drop. That by the time it actually lands, your opponent is probably not under there, especially in PvP. In PvE, I can kite enemies, keep them right under it by dodging towards them or anything. But I just find it to be really, I could have put a lava font there. Honestly.
The thing about it that I like in PvP is like, okay, I'm usually, since I'm running the support Ellie, I need to be standing on the point, right? And anything that forces them to drop out of the point, even if it's a second, so I can get a tech on the neutralize on it, like it's worth it to me. Especially delay abilities like Eruption and even this Spike. Like usually they will be forced to dodge it just by pure reflect or whatever. For some reason they want to dodge it. But even if it's just a second that I can get them like out of the point, like it's worth it to me.
All right, Eyedrops, what's your least favorite?
Well, just to touch on the Ice Spike there, I think it's very effective in what Miane is talking about as far as structured PvP is concerned. You can basically get the AoE increaser and make the Ice Ice Spike's AoE effect radius, that exact pretty much radius of all regular-sized points. Thus, if you put it right in the center, you're pretty much guaranteed if they're on the point, you're going to be doing damage. In World vs. World, it's very hard to land against moving targets, things like that. So I can totally understand where you're coming from there. And then as far as a dungeon is concerned, the bosses are most of the time pretty much stationary, so it's very easy to hit. And I do like that it's an actual real skill shot as opposed to like some of the other abilities like Dragon's Tooth on Scepter, which is just the worst mechanic ever.
I hate that thing.
I will fight that to my grave. But
we'll talk about that in a second.
As far as skills that I have difficulty with in, let's say, World vs. World, for example, it's very similar to Ice Spike in its the eruption ability. I think as far as what eruption does, it's very strong, and I like using it.
What it does is 6 stacks of bleeding for 10 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
I think is 12 seconds. There it is. And
12
it does
seconds, yeah.
Tons of damage.
It's another true skill shot, and you have to basically predict when the person's going to be where. So basically, if you cast it, it gives them plenty of time for them to get out. There's a huge delay from when you cast it to when it actually explodes and does the damage and bleeds. Now, once again, in structured PvP, you can put it right on the point and force them to choose between actually getting onto the point and taking the damage or stepping off of it. So it's very effective there. But in World vs. World, for example, I find Eruption to be very, very difficult to use effectively.
Now, what I do with Eruption is I try to get somebody to, I try to push out a little bit forward so that somebody targets me, and then I start to fall back, and I'll put the staff for the unsteady ground, which cripples people that move through it. Once they're crippled, then I'll immediately throw down Eruption between them and safety. So they're going to probably start moving back through it. Oh, it's okay. I'll be able to dodge roll out of it or something. But then I hit them with an immobilize. Now, sometimes it works. If they don't realize that they're going to be in danger, the immobilize will hold them in place long enough that they'll get hit by the eruption. But the other thing that I do use eruption for in World vs. World is if you're on a tower and there's a bunch of people just sitting down there, either shooting at the door or shooting at you, nobody's looking at the ground. They don't realize there's 20 people sitting right in the middle of an eruption. Now, only 5 of them are going to get a hit. But still, it's a guaranteed hit with a lot of damage that slowly ticks over time, whereas if somebody gets hit really big, they might look down and notice their health just drops, but but eruption sneaks up on them because it's 12 seconds of constant 6 ticks of bleeding, and that can stack a lot, especially if you get some
It is also a really low
bonuses.
cooldown if you look at it. It's one of the lowest cooldown blasts that you also have, so you can combo around. The fact that it has a delay allows you to combo yourself pretty easily.
Yeah, I think I kind of went off on a weird course there as far as, I know we're talking about skills that we're unhappy with. I think Eruption is a fantastic skill, and I'm not flip-flopping it by any means. I'm just saying, though, that when you're fighting a moving target, which most cases, let's say you have a group of 5 and you're in World vs. World, you're like a supply camp team or something like that, you're going to be encountering other people. You're going to come across other scout teams and things like that. And people are mobile. That's how this game,
they dodge,
combat,
you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to land that. Now, if they were to maybe, I think this is a really cool idea. It could be really hard to implement, but basically you place the spell, right? And then you can click 2 again to activate it. And depending on how much time has gone past from when you placed it to when you've activated it, is how many bleed stacks you put on the people.
Oh, that's
I think that would
clever.
be really, really cool. And that would really kind of take any negative feelings I have towards the ability.
So it'd work a lot like Nunu's Ultimate in League of Legends. I
oh
like
my God,
that a
League
lot.
of Legends! Woo!
Yes, I like that a lot. Okay, so I think we talked about staff enough. Let's move on to Scepter. Because Scepter is really interesting. I want it to work so much. But it just, some of the... Scepter is my favorite air main hand, I think. Yeah, because I love that lightning strike on the really low cooldown that almost always does massive damage. That's a really cool... But let's talk overall. What's your feeling about Scepter, Miyane? What's its place in PvP?
In SPVP, I guess it's the only real weapon where you can spec damage for it and have a kind of viable build, but it's still... If you compare it to a lot of other damage dealers, it's really lackluster. I like the low cooldowns and stuff, but there's a lot of issues. For example, air is usually your main, your most reliable damage source. And let's say the auto attack, right? The auto attack has a few pulls going through the entire chain, And this often, if you're against a guardian with retaliation, you're gonna get wrecked. Like every single hit is gonna, it's a lot of things about this.
Because
like,
after you start the ability, because let's arc lightning, you might have seen it. It's basically where they have a lightning that goes from your scepter to the target and just stays constantly shocking them. And unlike other things where you like throw a lightning, like chain lightning on the staff, it hits your opponent and then it does damage, and then if you see a retaliation field or some kind of bubble up, you can stop it. Chain lightning is just constantly hitting them over and over again, and it's not like an auto attack that goes in bursts. So I could see how that could be a big problem, because your enemy sees you firing it and then pops up a retaliation field. So for the next 3 steps, you hit yourself. Yeah, that could definitely be a problem.
Yeah. Another thing related to that, a lot of things have been nerfed about this. Dragon's Tooth damage ratios have been nerfed.
Tell us why the dragon. We had heard iDrops talking about the Dragon's Tooth. Why is he going crazy? What's about it that makes it
the
weird?
The thing about Dragon's Tooth, it requires so much preparation just to land this one skill, right?
How does it work? Tell us how it works.
Basically, you just press the skill, right, for Dragon's Tooth, and it has like around a 2-second delay for it to go down, right? Yeah, so it's like the staff water number 2, except that it's so much more easier to like see coming up and just avoid. You can avoid it by walking. Like you can't get out of it by walking.
Basically, I think you have to be targeting a stationary target in order for it to hit.
Yeah.
So that's and the main thing about it though is, unlike the lava font or anyway, unlike lava font or any of these others, you can't choose where Dragon's Tooth falls. It always falls at the current place of your opponent. You can't predict it, right? And that's the real downside. The upside is it does tons of damage, and it sets them on fire. It does way more damage in this small AoE than it has any right to, because it's such a crappy skill otherwise.
Yeah, you can't lead anybody with it. Like it's obviously locked to the target of location of when you cast the spell, but it's so blatantly obvious, especially in a structured sense. I know Miane can attest to this. That when you see that giant ass Dragon's Tooth above your head, you're gonna dodge out of the way, and the only way you're gonna land that, I've seen it used effectively, is if you're in tandem with another profession that's providing the CC in order to hold them still.
It just requires way too much setup for what it's worth.
Right.
But it has another use when it comes to downfights. There's been a lot of, people go and they prioritize resting and all this kind of stuff. So it's more reliable when you can Dragon's Tooth in someone's body that is being rest, because it's going to hit everyone that is resting. Like you're forcing them, you rest this person or you take all this damage and probably go down along with them. So it does have some usage, but it is a skill that I will hope to see being a ground targeted skill rather than wherever they're currently standing.
Or just have a slightly faster, time period where it comes down. Because I do like the variation, but this one, just the time it takes to come down, like you said, they can walk out of it. Phoenix, though, is one of the coolest looking abilities in the game. I just freaking love Phoenix. And that is like, you cast this Phoenix, you basically choose a spot. A Phoenix flies between you and that spot. When it gets there, it explodes in a fire, then reforms and comes back to you and grants vigor to everyone and removes sometimes. It's bugged.
Sometimes it comes back. Yeah.
Sometimes it comes back. Oh, okay. I didn't know it didn't come back. I hadn't noticed that. You're saying it doesn't? It's bugged?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't randomly. I have no idea why.
All right, so yeah, Phoenix is freaking awesome looking. And Flame Strike, man, that's a weird skill, because it's like you have to constantly keep them on fire. It's all condition damage almost. Nah.
Right. You're talking about the auto attack?
Yeah, the auto
number
attack,
1?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good condition pressure, but it's definitely not good for spiking someone down. But obviously, you're gonna if you're doing Scepter Dagger, which is I believe what we're talking about here, because Scepter Focus is not that good. But well, I guess it's all right. But you're gonna have condition damage, like you're gonna have bonus condition damage. So burning is a good thing. Plus, you can use it to combo with your number 5 skill, which is what, flame grab or fire grab.
Yeah, let me. Fire grab, yes.
Yeah, fire grab. So like fire grab does additional damage, which is your number 5 skill, on Scepter Fire or
Scepter
sorry,
Dagger.
Dagger offhand, yeah. So you can use your auto attack from your Scepter and Fire to start them burning, and then fire grab them to get that extra bonus damage.
Yeah. So the thing that the Scepters definitely seems like it's a condition damage weapon. This is what because besides the Flame Strike on the Scepter, Phoenix, I think Phoenix doesn't set anything on fire, does it? It just does damage. I'm pretty sure.
It does damage and also grants you vigor.
Yeah, but it doesn't set anything on fire.
It.
But the Flame Strike sets things on fire. Stone Shards, the auto attack for Earth, sets things on fire. So that's definitely a thing. Now, if you combine that with...
You mean bleed?
The bleed, sorry. Condition damage bleed, yes. And then, as you were saying, you usually, when you're using a Scepter, you also use a Dagger. And like you said, Ring of Fire sets people on fire. Fire Grab is dependent on people being on fire. And the Dagger on Earth gives you huge amounts of bleed. So it just feels like the Scepter-Dagger combination is a combination for condition damage builds. Did you see it being used any other way?
No. I personally dislike any kind of condition damage build, mostly for Ellis that is not staff, because it has the application is there, but you don't have a lot of things to cover, right? So if I am in, let's say I'm using Scepter auto attack bleeds, right? Like the application rate is there, but I have nothing to cover this bleeds with. So let's say I got 20 stacks and I don't know, like I'm putting all these stacks on you, but you're constantly removing them before they get to do any real harm to you. Like before the stacks reach that spot where you're gonna be taken down super fast. Yeah. So that's kind of my issue with Scepter is that you don't have those options to cover your conditions with.
And that's actually some small advantage to the Flame Strike, the #1 skill on the Scepter, because it constantly puts them back on fire. If they try to take it off, well, it doesn't matter. You're on fire. So I really love, though, I mean, some of the things on Scepter look the coolest, to be honest. They're like, they make your Elementalist look like a badass, even though I'd rather be fighting with a staff often. I mean, the air one, you've got Arc Lightning, which looks cool, and then Lightning Strike every 5 seconds. You're just calling down lightning on them. It's pretty awesome. And Blinding Flash, I mean, Lightning Strike doesn't have any interrupt, so it looks like you're doing 3 things at once, almost. And then the Rock Barrier, the #2 on the Earth, surrounds you, like you just call up the Earth to surround you and protect you, and when you're done with it, you throw them at your opponent. That looks awesome. You're like, well, I'm done with this barrier. You, go. It's like, on Dancer, on Prancer, go.
Sadly, the chain, like that hurl got nerfed really badly.
Oh, really? It's doing less damage now?
It used to do so much damage, and now it does terrible damage. So it's often better to skip the barrier, since it actually gives you like some good toughness. I think it's 200 plus.
Yeah, so like it's a 30 seconds. When I'm usually like finishing off an opponent, I'll hurl my barrier at them. It's just a spite.
Here, take this rock, or rocks, however many are left. But yeah, like the big combo, I know Kirby in chat was talking about it. Like if you're running Scepter, you're running Dagger offhand, and the big combo used to be you would start in Earth, you'd queue up your #2 skill, that Rock Barrier skill, right? So you'd have that in. You'd switch out of Earth, and you'd go into Air. And then you would ride in on somebody.
Ride the lightning.
You put your aura on, ride into somebody, and then you would updraft them while shocking them at the same time, and then switch to your fire attunement while they're knocked down on the ground. Cue your Dragon's Tooth to start up its build-up above them, and then throw your Phoenix at them. And that was like a huge amount of damage if you can pull it off. But honestly, and I know Miane will agree with me on this, anybody that's worth their salt in structured PvP is going to take some form of stability or some way to get out of that combination. Like you're not playing correctly if you're not taking those counters to this type of play. And I know a lot of people are successful with it early on in the game when people are learning, but as people understand the actual meta and the mechanics of the game, they're going to have these things that basically completely nullify like 90% of the damage from that combination. It's too like Miane was saying, there's just too much preparation and things that need to go right in order for it to work correctly.
And that's why Dragon's Tooth as an ability is very frustrating against in PvP, is because people can basically blatantly avoid it. If you have a class that depends entirely on kiting and immobilizing things, and then you give everybody tools to avoid being immobilized, then that class loses all of its power. At least with those with those particular weapons that rely entirely on the immobilization. I think Dagger and the staff by itself can do a great deal of damage or control in a PvP match, and that's why the Scepter seems to fall short in that. I do, however, love using the Scepter Dagger combo in PvE, because you can count on the enemy, mob to stay on your Dragon's Tooth if you dodge through them, and then they go derp and turn around, walk straight back into the Dragon's Tooth. So that works really well. So let's move on to talking about Dagger then, because that's another very favored combination.
This weapon set.
What?
This weapon set. This weapon set is all over the place. Okay.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by that?
Okay, let's look at the fire, right? We have a channel, number 2 skill. It's a channel skill that will apply burn, right? Mm-hmm. This skill can not only be interrupted so easy, it is not worth your time.
You're talking about Drake's Breath, right? The number 2?
Yes. It is like 99% of the time not worth using at all. Like, you're wasting your time. You do more damage auto-attacking than you will use in the skill. Even if you wanted to set the preparation for fire grab, like, you have so many more easier and better ways to do it.
I noticed that when I was playing. I thought I was using it wrong. Like, maybe I'm not hitting them with all the ticks of the skill, but it just felt like it was not doing as much damage as advertised. And I didn't even seem to manage to set people on fire all that often. I'm an Elementalist. I have to set people on fire. So, I don't know. Drake's Breath just feels like it's almost like a broken skill. Like, it needs something fixed with it.
It's great for showing off at the circus,
It needs
Fire Breath.
What it needs is something that makes my enemy want to interrupt it, and something that wants me to channel it to begin with. Because right now, like, they can't just ignore you while you're doing it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're using it or not.
Pretty much. But damn, do you look hot when you use burning speed to fly in as if you're on a hoverboard, just sliding along this fire, leaving a trail behind you like you're Marty McFly. I gotta say, that looks cool as hell. And then you miss them.
And then you miss.
And then they dodge out, and then you burn nothing except the grass.
Burning speed, though, is a really cool skill. I think it's really fun to use. It's difficult to use it, consistently in the proper way, like landing them, like Miane was saying. Like, it's pretty easy to miss, but it is a dash. It's a gap close. Like, if you guys are unfamiliar with dagger play on an Elementalist, it's very much in and out type of combat. You go in, you do some stuff, and then you use an ability to get away from them, right? You're creating that space because you are still super, super squishy. So you never want to give them the time of the day to actually retaliate against you. But there's a lot of these skills that are gap closers, and there's a lot of these skills that create gaps, right? So, like, you're going to find yourself dashing in with burning speed, for example, bursting them with some type of combination, and then maybe, switching over to air, for example, and updrafting them away, which kicks you back, gives you swiftness, knocks them back. You've created that gap again to get another combination ready where you're going to dash in on them again. Then you have your air attunement number 4 skill, which is your Ride the Lightning you can use to close the gap on them. You have Magnetic Grasp.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool one.
That is...
Like, I see you got some iron in your blood. Get over here!
Yeah. So awesome. It's very much in and out type of combat. And I think where the daggers really fall short is that if you do get caught, or if one of those gap closers fails, you find yourself kind of like in a herp dirt moment. Like, let's say you cast Magnetic Grasp, and it's your only gap closer you have left that's not on cooldown while you're doing this, like, skirmish or whatever, and it for some reason bugs out, which it tends to do a lot.
Or they go behind a corner for 1 second.
Something silly causes it to not make you travel to them. You're then stuck at, like, max range, and none of your abilities do anything to your opponent. Meanwhile, your opponent's probably schooling you somehow. So I find it, like, It's really, really hit or miss. It can be really good if you land the combination appropriately, but I feel like against skilled players who know what a dagger LE does, like it's very easy once again to counter.
The issue I have with this weapon design is that you're giving me a melee weapon, and I'm already squishy and have one of the worst stats in the game in terms of defensive stats because of what I have as a profession itself. And like your damage is so low, your survival is so low compared to every other profession. If you're dagger, it just doesn't feel rewarding at all. Like if you want to do any damage, you're gonna be so much more squishier because of the traits that you're taking. And then you're being a melee. You're in melee range. Like usually you just die.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there. I think the risk, it's necessary for the reward to be greater than the risk, right? Or the possibility of the reward. And I know the fact that you're actually going into melee and you have those squishy stats is a huge, huge risk, right? And the thing I hear time and time again about warriors preaching up why it's okay that they do 1 billion damage in 5 seconds is because, oh, well, we're in melee, so we should get that advantage. We're at risk, blah, blah, blah. Well, you also have the highest armor. You have the highest health in the game. Where is the risk? That to me is not a risk.
And they have plenty of mobility too. Look at the ways they can do leaps and jumps and all kinds of crazy stuff. I too, when I started playing Elementalist, and I understood that what ArenaNet's whole thing was is if you're in melee, you should be doing more damage to make up for it. And when I went to play Dagger, I'm like, oh, this is the big damage combo because these are all short range skills, and I was not impressed. I mean, Drake's Breath is a perfect example of something you have to be right next to them, and I expected it to do tons of damage. Like Fire Grab does a satisfying amount of damage when you can set somebody on fire, but Drake's Breath does nothing, and Lightning Whip does pretty nice, but the rest of the air tree is like meh, and the Earth one, it takes so long to set up, and you're so vulnerable when you're doing it, just never felt right. I agree with you completely.
Well, the thing about the whole warrior thing, I think is kind of right and kind of wrong, because if you look at LEs, like, what are your main mitigation ways, right? You have protection, like, you have protection available to you on a 2-man swap if you spec for it. One of the highest uptimes by default when it comes to protection duration. Then you have Misform, you have Blinks, you have all this kind of stuff, right? But I still think the damage is not there to even make it work. Like, even though you have all these ways to get out of a fight, because we know the warriors, once they're in a fight, they use their shield block. They're usually like really susceptible unless they have Endure Pain traded or in their utility bar. So I just think the damage is not there. Like it just has no role defined for this dagger. Another thing about burning speed, if you compare it to skills such as Heartseeker, like Heartseeker is so much more reliable, does so much more damage, and also easily.
That's a thief skill, right?
Yeah, that is a thief skill.
And that, I think, goes towards a target, not just in a direction that's
yes,
going,
exactly.
Right? Burning speed always seems to go in a direction rather than a target.
It goes to the direction that it has the same thing as Dragon's Tooth, where wherever they're standing, that's where you're gonna go.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we got to talk about focus, although I don't know anybody that does. It's because, as we're just talking about, the Elementalist is very squishy. The focus makes them less squishy. There's a lot of great defensive abilities here, but it doesn't mesh with either the Scepter or the Dagger very well. Yes?
Agreed.
Yeah, focus really doesn't mesh with anything.
I mean, there's some cool abilities on here, like Swirling Winds. You can just create this thing that knocks out all projectiles. You can knock down foes. You can drop a comet of ice on people and daze them. Flame Wall, Fire Shield, Magnetic Wave. So
Obsidian Flesh. It's a doom and vulnerability potion. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Those are
They're great
really
skills.
Cool. But neither of the main hand weapons give you enough damage to justify taking the focus, I think, is the main thing.
Nothing about focus really justifies itself other than the invuln and the projectile.
And look at the cooldowns on these.
Yeah, because if you also look at the trait lines, like all the aura trait lines all over the place, all the traits related to auras all everywhere, right? And if you look at this focus, like you have these conditions, like from the burn-in aura, you have the wall, and it's just all over the place, and your train lines are already everywhere. Like, it just makes no sense with any weapon right now.
I mean, when I look at this, I see the lowest cooldown on this list is 20 seconds. And then you've got a couple 25s, but then you've got 40, 50, 50. And then you look at the dagger as an offhand weapon, and it's got 15. Then you've got a couple of 40s. You've got another 15. Then you got a 45 and a 30. So maybe it's close enough, but it just, I don't know. It just doesn't gel very well. All right, guys, let's talk about the trident.
Oh man. Okay.
No, what?
Let's do it.
What's the trident?
I'll drop a huge bomb on the public tonight if you want to talk about the trident.
Let's do it.
All right. So the trident, of course, is the go-to weapon. Actually, is it the only one?
It's the only. Yeah, it's the only one.
You have no choice. Okay, so you will
have to
use it, and you will like it. But if you're in air attunement and you're using a trident, your number 2 skill has infinite range, literally across the map.
Really?
So everybody can abuse the shit out of that. You heard it here. I will let you in on the secret.
Don't you mean air pocket?
Whatever number 2 is, the electric shock.
Yeah, the AoE electric damage.
Yeah, you can literally, if you can see it to target it, you can hit it with your number 2 skill.
Wow.
So I love using it to like pull mobs and things like that. It's probably going to get fixed sometime soon, especially now that it's out and about into public knowledge. But basically, that is a really cool skill. And,
another thing.
Yeah.
Air pocket number 3. I don't know if it's fixed, but if you're aiming upwards and you use the bubble, like it actually goes all the way up, and you can like get into mountains that way if you aim it properly, because you're still underwater.
The air.
Yeah, it goes. If you aim it like.
So for people that don't know, it releases this like air bubble that goes in the direction you're facing, and it just keeps going for about 12 to 1500 range, and then when it explodes, you teleport to that location. You can detonate it early, or it'll detonate when it hits a foe or when it gets to its target. So go ahead. That's interesting. I never heard that before.
I don't know if they fixed it yet, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, so as far as the strength of the trident is concerned, I think water attunement with the trident is really, really strong.
Yeah,
like that's probably the one you're going to be using a lot. The number 5 skill on water is really kind of your go-to.
It does so much damage.
Yeah, it's like, but everything else doesn't do damage, so it kind of balances out, and it really makes sense. And I'm really happy with the water attunement. I mean, you've got an AoE burst skill that you can trigger. You've got a wall that you can use to stop projectiles. You can add AoE regeneration and vigor, I think, and then you also
undercurrent,
have,
I think,
your tidal wave, which is basically a dash towards your target, and it does a lot of AoE damage as you're going through them, which is really good.
You can pin them against a wall. Like normally you do damage on the entire journey. If you can pin them against a wall and use tidal wave, you do all the damage that you would normally do over the entire journey just to them and the areas, or just to the target, instead of like doing damage as you pass through the target. It seems like it does more damage if you can pin them against a wall. It's kind of interesting. Same kind of bug that was in League of Legends, where you do extra stun if you use Alistair to knock them against a wall closer to you rather than further away, or something like that. So
right, because it automatically assumes that you're continuing on past that point, right? So it just keeps going with the damage, which is really nice. Now, a big thing that was a problem with the Elementalists here early on with launch is that we weren't allowed to use an elite underneath water. PvE or World vs. World. Now, in Structured, you were.
I was breaking my immersion.
Yeah, basically, we were without an elite there for like 2 solid weeks, and it was pretty lame, and we just recently got it back with one of the patches, and it's really nice to have that back.
I am waiting for the refund of all of the damage I had to repair on my armor. I think it added up to like 50 gold or something, that I didn't have an elite to get myself out of a bad situation. So ArenaNet, when you want to send me that 50 gold, anytime would be fine, actually.
Actually, we didn't have any underwater elite, because I actually tried.
Oh, PvP didn't either?
No, the thing is that elite was broken when we tried it before, I believe.
Yeah, it's fixed now and in the game, so like everybody can use it, so it's really good. Basically what it does is it pulls everybody in and does AoE damage while you're pulling people in. So it's
underwater tornado. The thing about it though is you have to unlock tornado, which is like way down in the tree. You have to spend a ton of skill points. You can just do this at 30 usually. I think I got to about 50 before I unlock Tornado, just because you have to save a bunch of skill points in order to get it. What is it? It's 10 to do 50 skill points in order to get Tornado. So nobody has 50 skill points waiting for them when they get a 30 usually.
Right.
So.
Plus, you're gonna spend your first 10 when you get elites unlocked on your elemental, summon elemental, most likely. So that puts you even farther behind or whatever. But it is a good skill. It can be used in different scenarios. I think there's. As far as elites go, I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent here with an elementalist, but or with the elites. I'd say summon elemental is probably the strongest right now. It brings the most to the table. It has a lot of versatility to it. I don't think tornado is a bad skill or
I don't
anything
know.
like
I'm
that,
real
but-
partial to fiery greatsword.
Oh
seems
man,
to do
I think
a ton
Fire
of
Greatsword
damage.
looks the coolest.
Not
Definitely
you,
looks
what
the
it is.
coolest.
Hey, E2 Brute? No,
Yes.
man. No, it's so bad. Don't get me started on this. I'm just going
Well,
to
hang on a second, because I summon the fire elemental, and it's supposed to do all this damage, and if I do nothing and watch it, it does like 300 damage every like 5 seconds. And I'm like, really? It does like one half of my auto
It's also doing
attack?
burning, and it's also adding might to the area with
Oh,
to your
I missed
group.
that part. Maybe
Yeah.
it's better than I thought.
Also, the Ice Elemental will provide you a really big heal and chill as well, and the Earth One provides you with AoE protection. So the Elementals are kind of cool.
All right,
It's
so-
super versatile though, because you can use it offensive and defensively. It's really nice about that. But back on the Trident. What Bridger? What stands out to you as far as like the skills you find yourself using a lot with the Trident?
Well, whenever I'm fighting a shark, I make sure to go into air and use number 5, Lightning Cage, just because I find it very funny to trap a shark in a cage when normally it's reversed and the shark is on the outside of the cage, and you get to look at him and just go, "Oh, shark, you're so silly. We're supposed to be in the cage protecting us from you."
I like that. I
So-
never thought about doing that, but yeah.
I do that every time there's a shark. But can we talk shit? I want to shit talk for a second because
Let's do it.
What the fire underwater? What the hell is going on there?
Shouldn't it turn
Magical
into
fire.
rocks?
No, it does nothing. It's garbage. I hate it. It's supposed to be, but it's stupid and it never. What?
Okay, but when lava hits water, right? Let's get straight up Pokemon rules here. When lava hits water,
well,
it
that's
should
why
turn
the
into
water
rocks.
spec is so much more powerful, I think. And fire is crap.
This.
Like lightning should be really strong underwater, right? Because technically,
Oh, my
according to
God.
Pokemon rules, lightning should be super effective, but it's definitely not. But no, seriously though, the fire, I don't get it at all.
Boil
I
and
get
steam, those make sense.
Yeah, but-
in terms of actual mechanics, magma orb, nothing ever stands still underwater. It's got 3 directions it can move. Well, 6, but it's got 3 axes of movement. And magma orb goes to a place, sits there for a while, and then explodes. And that never works except against stationary targets. It annoys
But it's
me.
magical fire.
Even when I try to use lava chains, I thought that would immobilize it, but no, it just cripples the opponent, and the magma orb still can't hit them. It's supposed to be this AoE thing, but the radius is so small I can't do shit with it.
Yeah, I think the number 2 skill on Trident is pretty good.
Looks
Like
cool.
what is
Boil.
it called? Steam boil. Yeah, it boils
steam
the
is the
area.
third one. Boil is pretty good. It's a
Yes,
pretty decent size AoE, and that's what I'm looking for when I go to fire underwater, and that's the only one that gives it to me. And heat wave's okay. I thought it was crap, and then I realized it actually adds burning damage.
Yeah, well, a cool combination you can do is actually starting in air. Well, you don't necessarily start in air, but being in air, casting your 5 skill, which is your electric cage, which holds everybody into an area, and then switching instantly to fire and casting boil in the cage, right? So you're holding them in place while boiling them to death, which feels pretty good.
And then you
at the
throw
end of the day.
steam on top of that so that they can't hit you once they come out of it. They're blinded. There's water vapor hotter than 212 degrees in my eyes. That means I can't really hit you.
I don't know why you guys have so much underwater experience. It scares me.
Well, there's this thing in World vs. World, Miane. I know you're not in there that
It's called
often
Dreaming
other than
Bay.
on the trebuchets, but there's actual underwater combat that takes place. I consider myself to be a crate-killing expert and a quaggin connoisseur, and I've spent many a times in the Borderlands Center Lakes testing out the underwater skills in the recent
That
past.
was a scary world.
I
Yes.
have to say, My favorite thing to do to people, though, against other players, is first put them in an air bubble and float them towards the surface, and they can't do anything when they're in the air bubble. It's as if they're stunned or dazed. And then, once they get out of the air bubble, they're like, phew, now at least he can't mess with me on the Z-axis, until I throw a rock anchor on them, and they sink for 5 seconds, and they're back to where they started, and now they've got a lightning cage around them. So, it's a pretty fun combination.
Yeah.
Earth is nice. I like Earth. I have a lot of condition damage when I'm playing in PvE, and I like the #1 just adds tons of bleeds.
I feel like the 5, it leaves something to be desired on Earth.
Yeah.
It's supposed to AoE blind everybody, right? Like, I never seem to get that to land on anything, ever, for some reason.
Yeah, but what it does is it clouds the water for a certain amount of time, so its duration 6 seconds. So for that entire 6 seconds, they're blinded, even if they attack multiple times. So that actually works, unless they actually leave the AoE, then they will get out of the blinding. But that can blind them from multiple attacks, which is what's nice about it. But again, like you said, they have to sit still.
Yeah, it's good if you have like a bunch of people or things attacking you, I suppose, to kind of mitigate some of the damage. It's nice. It's kind of a passive-aggressive way to support your group. But I mean, we're kidding ourselves here. How you play underwater as an Ellie is you
don't play it at all.
That's a good answer, but you use all your utilities, which are arcane skills, in underwater, and then you just press Whirlpool. Like, that's pretty much what you do. Like, honestly, that's how you play underwater as an Elementalist. But I think the skills are pretty good, but on the whole, underwater combat right now, to me, for every profession, is just... It's just that. I'm not going to like bash it or anything like that, but it's really not that exciting to me personally.
Well, let me ask you this question. Would you prefer to simply have all the normal abilities that you have? I mean, like, that's how World of Warcraft works, right? You're just underwater using exactly the same skills.
It would be impossible.
Make no sense.
Yeah, it would be impossible. First off, it would break your immersion, Bridger, at 100%.
It would.
Secondly, it would be impossible to use some of those skills because you're dealing with another dimension, right? Is that the proper term? Like, you're in three
a third dimension. That's right.
So, like, it would be like all of those skill shots would basically be impossible to land all of the time, and it would just be a really big headache. So, I don't know. I play some of the other professions, and I use their underwater abilities, and to me, they're much more user-friendly. For example, I know we've been hating on the Warrior, but the Warrior is just so good right now. We like to use it as kind of like the level that we'd like everything else to be.
Instead of 1,000 sword swings, it's like 1,000 pokes!
Right, 1,000 spears, and like I press my 5 button and I instantly go to you and chop your face off infinity times. Like, I mean, these things take the Z-axis, or whatever axis it is that's been added, the up and down axis.
Yes, that's the Z-axis.
It takes it out of the equation because you don't have to think about that. You use the ability and it takes care of it for you. Where on the Ellie, you don't really have that. You're very much needing to know where the target is at all times in order to land your abilities appropriately.
Yep. All right, we're running long here, so let's jump on to healing skills.
Okay.
Do you mean Glyph of Harmony? Yeah, that's a great healing.
It's the only one you should use.
You don't like the Signet at all.
Oh, come on.
I like what it does. It gives health every time you cast a spell, and then it heals you if you need
I like what it does, yeah. I like what it does. I don't like its values. Let's just put it that way.
I don't like its values. I feel that I should vote Republican instead of Signet this year.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so anyway, the Signet Restoration is nice, and it jives well with, like, if you wanted to go with a Signet build, there's a lot of things that can buff Signets in your trait lines, and I've tried doing that. I've just never found it to be as useful as a full Arcane build, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Glyph of Elemental Harmony, it does a different spell, gives you a different boon, essentially, based on your attunement, and that I almost always use for swiftness.
Yeah,
I pretty much never use it for anything else.
Now, I know Miane will disagree with you there because in Structured, you're using it for protection and condition clearing, which is basically earth and water.
Yeah.
You will use it in air to get around the map quicker if you have some time. And I noticed this when I play other professions. I'll use my heal skill, like, just without thinking about it as I'm moving, because I'm so used to using it when I have full health just to get the extra benefit or whatever.
Oh.
So I'll be wasting my heal constantly, and it gets me into bad situations. But that's a story for another time. Basically, Harmony is just the go-to heal spell, bar none.
Yep.
It's actually been nerfed as well, and it's still, like, the strongest heal you can possibly get. It used to get down to 15-second cooldown, and now it's around 20. But yeah, it was pretty ridiculous before when you could get the glyph recharged and get it down to 15 seconds. It's pretty strong heal.
All right, so let's talk utility skills then. We've got them split into different categories. We have the arcane skills, the cantrips, and there's 4 of each of these. 4 arcane, 4 cantrips, 4 conjure skills, 4 glyphs, and 4 signets. And much of these are very similar. All the signets are air, earth, fire, water. All the glyphs are, well, not the glyphs actually, but the conjures are earth, flame, frost, lightning, so they've sort of matched the same thing. The cantrips are armor of earth, cleansing fire, lightning flash, mist form, and so it's sort of similar everything. Let's talk about the arcane skills. These are fantastic. They're phenomenal. There's a lot of great traits that go with these. What do you guys think?
Well, Blast got nerfed pretty hard recently. Well, not
Really?
recently, but it definitely doesn't do what it used to do. I don't know, actually know the numbers.
Yeah, didn't it used to have a weird thing where it was like really long range, like they lowered the range a little bit or something?
No, I think the range is still the same.
It's
I think they
1500. It's more than a normal staff skill.
Right, they upped the recharge rate, I know that for sure, and I think they decreased the damage on it as well. So it kind of lost its, unless you're doing an all arcane utility build, it kind of really lost its place on your bar, IMO. You know, I mean, like, Arcane Power, Arcane Wave are just way stronger. First off, Wave is probably my favorite out of all of the arcane
Because it's the
skills.
blast finisher.
Right, and you can use it to combo with all of your fields that you can create as an Elementalist. So it's kind of like a really versatile skill. You can use it to do damage. You can use it to support your team to heal. You can use it to add auras to your team. You can use it, you know, I mean, it's just so many different ways that Arcane Wave, I think, can be argued onto any bar. I feel like it definitely is a success as far as skill design goes. Now, Arcane Power, it's good. It's good to have permanent crits.
And
for
what does that
5
do?
skills.
5 attacks do critical damage, okay.
Right. But the only time I would ever use that ability is if I was going for a crit build, and I very rarely find myself
Actually-
doing that.
Let me blow your mind for a second, because I found an awesome use for Arcane Power.
Okay.
All right? So, picture this. We've got the Arcane Trait tree maxed out, and I've got the Arcane Trait that, hang on, let me get the actual name of it here for you so that we can have people following along. Okay, the Elemental Surge. Based on attunement, arcane skills cause either burning for 5 seconds, chilled for 3 seconds, blindness for 5 seconds, or immobilized for 1 second. Now, that works with Arcane Power such that you get 5 applications of those particular things I just listed. So, you throw Arcane Power on, you switch to fire on your staff, and you throw a fireball that does its normal damage, that's AoE, it does critical damage, and it sets everyone you hit on fire for 5 seconds. It will do that the next 5 times. You can stack 20 seconds of burning on a group of people in addition to your fireball's normal massive amounts of damage. Or, alternatively, if you want to make sure someone doesn't move anywhere, you hit Arcane Power and you go to Earth on your staff, and you start an eruption, and then you hit them with your auto attack 5 times. Every single time they get immobilized for 1 second. But meanwhile, if they're ever getting, you know, a little tricky about that, you can hit them with your 5 skill to immobilize them more. Or you can hit them with Arcane Blast or Arcane Wave to immobilize them for another second. So that whole combination really helps you land the eruption. Now, I'm talking mostly from a PvE standpoint, but I've also had this work really well in World versus World, where there's much less, you know, organized enemies that are structured PvP champions. So it's possible this won't work really well in PvP because in between those attacks of 1 second immobilization, your opponent does have a chance, and if he's spamming his dodge button, he'll get out of it. But I find it still really, really cool to be able to basically set tons of people on fire and do a lot of fire damage to a lot of people with the burning. It's good. It's a pyromaniac. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a really great skill. It's one of those. I think the key to being a really great skill, though, on an LE is that it's versatile. It can be used in different situations, and this definitely can be. Although I find myself wanting to use the other utilities instead of it. Like I feel like when I put Arcane Power on my bar, I'm basically saying it's like getting in a fight with no shoes on. You don't ever fight anybody in real life without shoes on because you don't have mobility, you don't have traction. It's just silly. You don't want to do it, right? It's like I need those survivability utilities, and Arcane Power is going to take that skill away from me, you know? So I find it very hard to put it on my bar.
Well,
right.
at least in SPUP right now, I want to add to this. Now that Arcane Blast has been nerfed, I actually found some more use to Arcane Power. Now that I'm not, like, the whole thing about Arcane Power is that it grants you 5 crits, right? So usually what I do is I go with a build that has barely any crit chance, right? Because what I want to do, especially with Scepter, Dagger, is I want my Fire Grab, my Phoenix, and my Dragon to crit, right? Because they're my biggest, like, spike damaging skills. So I benefit a lot
instead
from
of
not getting
going
crit.
for high precision in order to get those crits, you can instead put a ton more power or vitality or toughness on your character and still get the crits you want with Arcane Power.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
Yes, it is.
Very
Now,
cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
tried this with Burning Speed, and it doesn't work because Burning Speed leaves a stupid wall that is like 50 damage per tick, so they count towards your crit count. Sad day.
Ah, nuts. All right, so let's talk about these cantrips here. Armor of Earth gives you stability and protection for about, what, 5 seconds, maybe 7. A Cleansing Fire cures 3 conditions, breaks out of stun, and burns foes. That sounds like a really useful one for PvP, I assume?
Meh.
Nah.
Which one again?
Cleansing Fire?
It's a good ability.
It's your stun
but
breaker, basically.
You can see, the thing is though, with these cantrips, if you trait them appropriately, you can get the exact same benefits off of the other cantrips, for example. Like Cleansing Fire is its really purpose is to clear conditions, right? But if you get the appropriate traits, you can make it so your other cantrips that do other things also clear conditions and also add vigor to you as well.
Yeah.
So you could use Lightning Flash or Mist Form for their
and do the
benefits.
exact same thing basically as Cleansing Flare, plus you get the extra benefit of using the other cantrip.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So Lightning Flash or Mist Form, these are sort of your mobility cantrips. Which one's better? What do you think? Do they
Mist
both
Form.
have a place?
They both have a place in your bar. Mistform has other than just surviving. It has the purpose that you can also stomp and rest, at least in SPUP, while also being in Mistform. All you gotta do is just press F and go into Mistform, and you're in Bone, and nothing can really stop you from it. So it has both offensive and defensive utilities. One thing I don't like about Mistform is that, well, I'm not sure if I like it or don't like it, because it's your conditions will stay on you when you're in Mistform. They can apply new conditions to you, but if you have any conditions on you by the time you go into Mistform, like, they're gonna stick on you. So this the only thing I will say hate about it.
And the Mist Form also breaks stun, which is a really nice thing to have. That's sort of an extra tick in its category. And, by the way, if you're in Mist Form, either because you've got it on your bar or you use the number 3 when you're down, keep in mind that you can dodge to get a little extra speed in Mist Form. That's kind of nice. All right, let's talk about the Conjures. We got Earth Shield, Flame Axe, Frostbow, and Lightning Hammer. Aside from how badass you look with the Lightning Hammer when you use the 3 skill to knock someone backwards and just make them fly through the air, do you see a lot of utility for these? Because I haven't used them a whole lot.
I think Earth Shield has some possibilities for usage. I know I even messed around with it. I actually think Miane was using it. Because when you play support, I don't want to step on your area here, but when you play support as an Ellie, and you're playing like that regeneration build that's pretty popular, and actually Miane recently did a guide on it that's pretty popular as well. We should probably get the link for that.
We talked about that last week. It's in last week's show notes for anybody that wants it.
Okay, cool. But what you find yourself in that staff set is that when it comes time for the game to be decided, which is really right around the stomps, preventing people from getting stomped, things that really are like the big plays of the match, you really kind of lack those abilities. You have like what we talked about, the gust to get them away, right? But if you take Earth Shield, you not only have the ability to make yourself invulnerable, which is really nice, obviously, in a pinch, but you also have your 3 and 4 skills, which one is a pull and one is a dash daze, which both interrupt stomping processes, which is really successful if you can pull it off. Plus, you're also giving a shield to the area, so like someone can pick it up on your team and do the exact same thing. They can be invulnerable. They can dash. They can do. So if your team is good enough, honestly, I think in structured, Conjure Earth Shield or whatever it's called can be used very effectively. But as far as the other ones, I definitely haven't messed around with them, and I'd say stay away from them. Maybe Lightning Hammer. I mean, Miane, what do you think?
Yeah. I have been messing around with Lightning Hammer lately because the last chain of the auto attack is a really, really high scaling in terms of attacks. So I was checking if you can provide it to someone else and provide that damage. It is also blast finisher on every third chain of the auto attack and an AoE blind. So I was looking into ways to incorporate that. I haven't tried it so much in the LE itself because really being locked into one weapon, like one weapon set of skills, like it doesn't benefit you at all when you're playing, especially staff. So yes, it does have the potential. It had the potential before when they leap through the static field. Used to be a 2-second daze. You will see thieves spamming hardstick through it. And since you can give it to possibly another, ally, because there's gonna be another one in the floor, it could end up being really, really annoying to have like static fields available so often and getting days every single time. But it does have some potential. The Frostbow, it has cool ideas into it, just like Ash kind of ulti into the number 5, but it's really lackluster as well. It's really hard to aim and land, no matter if they're immobilized or not.
How sweet would it be though if your number 5 skill was a huge crystalline arrow that you could shoot across the map? Wouldn't that be badass? Like
I would love it.
League of Legends. Like I think that would be fun just to use or whatever. But yeah, all the other conjures for me just really fall off. I don't see any reason to put those on your bar.
All right, what about the glyphs here? The glyph, you get the lesser elementals, which is kind of a smaller version of the elite skill. You got the elemental power, chance for spells to inflict a condition based on your attunement. Glyph of renewal revives allies with different attunement effects, but that only works on downed allies, not defeated ones. Glyph of storms, create a storm based on your attunement. What do you guys think about these?
Well, storm is really good in PvE for like dungeoning and stuff like that. You can stack it on top of your meteor shower and all of your other AoEs and really kind of just decimate the area. Plus you can get the glyph trait. It's called quick glyphs. It's a 10-point trait in the air line that helps reduce all of these spells that we're going to talk about here, or these glyphs. But basically storm I've used very effectively in PvE and in World vs. World, for example, but I tend to not use it in World vs. World most of the time. So Storms, I feel like, is really a PvE skill, probably. Lesser Elementals is good if you're going for like the whole minion build. Like you can get 2 minions out at a time and do some decent damage even as a support Ellie. Plus it's reduced by that quick glyphs, although it can be buggy, so that's to be noted. Elemental Power, I don't really see a place for it other than if you were some kind of... Actually, I really don't know. Miane can talk about that one. And then, what was the other? There's another glyph. Oh, Glyph of Renewal, right, for rezzing?
Yeah.
That is super awesome for dungeon grinding. Also, it can be used effectively in World vs. World if you time it appropriately. You can res 3 people, which is really, really nice. If you're in Earth Attunement. It's basically it does a different res depending on what attunement you're in when you cast it. So if you're in Earth and you cast Glyph of Renewal, you're going to be resing 3 people in the area, which in a dungeon, if you're fighting a boss, is super awesome because everybody knows that if you go up to res somebody, basically the boss instantly turns to you and says, nope, you're not going to do that, and stomps on you. Well, if you're using Glyph of Renewal, you can do it from range and safety, and it doesn't trigger that mechanism so that you can get your allies up with safety, which is really nice.
Yep, definitely. I definitely like that. It was definitely a little overpowered. I think in one of the betas it was getting people up even when they were defeated, and that was no good. Right,
that's to be noted. It doesn't res you if you're completely tapped out, but it does res you if you're in your down state.
Yep. All right, so, I have never really used Glyph of Elemental Power. I mean, it adds a condition based on your attunement, but it's... Look how small those conditions are. 3 seconds of burning, 2 seconds of chilled, and you can... I mean, it adds versatility, but I'd kind of rather have a Signet that does one of those things better rather than doing 4 of them weak with a 45-second cooldown, Miane?
The thing about elemental power is that they try to give you this glyph, right, to kind of solve the issue that you have no way to cover your conditions, but the issue is that it's a chance. It's like a small chance. It doesn't really... Like, I will be fine if this glyph were not to be a chance, but a 100% thing, right? Because then you will have more possibilities in terms of
Oh, so it's over. It's over 30 seconds that it gives your spells a chance to do this. It's just, and it feels like it's not dependable enough. Is that the idea?
It's you can't rely on it for condition covering. It's just there. Like, it doesn't help at all. Even if you're making a condition build, it's just bad right now.
It basically adds the things that those attunements already do. It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you're in fire, it adds burning, right?
Yeah.
You already can cause burning from fire attunement. If you're in air or if you're in water, it adds chill. You can already add, like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Well, it does
Like,
make sense, and that's the problem.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, it doesn't bring anything extra. It doesn't do anything more than what you can already do while in those attunements.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's go on to signets now, because I don't think we're a little bit over the time, by about 47 minutes that I wanted to spend in the show. So, but I mean, this is a lot of good
all
stuff.
bad. There you go.
All bad? Really? None of them are good? Not even Signet of Fire? Because that can give you 5 or 10% more crit if you're going with a crit build.
Come on.
Signet of Fire is probably the one I like the most when I'm playing Condition, but that's only because my third utility is usually up in there. Then again, the thing about Burn is you can have a really long duration on it, but if they wipe it, like, 3 seconds into that long duration burning, like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You don't want a high duration on it. You want a high tick per burn-in.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing is that if you're in PvE and you throw 30 seconds worth of burning on them, and then they die at the 20-second mark, you've just wasted a bunch of damage.
Das is true.
So, yeah, I mean, I like Signet of Earth. I've used it in World v World in order to help solidify those...
Like to lock somebody down?
Lock somebody down, and... Because it's got a long range, right? I'm pretty sure. It's got, 1,200 range.
1,200,
So
yeah.
I'll use that on, like, Eruption, like, in combination with other immobilizations. I'll throw an Eruption down, and then I'll hit them with my 5 skill on the staff, which locks them down with Immobilize for 3 seconds. Just before that ends, I hit them with Signet of Earth, so that they don't get a time to hit with their dodge, and they'll guaranteed to get those 6 stacks of bleeding. And so that's kind of useful, but it's only a single target, so it's tough. But we talked about Elite. Downstate abilities.
We have downstate skills? What?
Yeah, they don't.
Oh my god.
They don't seem like they add up to when I see the thief disappearing in front of me.
Okay, it's seriously the worst downstate skills in the game right now. Vapor Form is kind of cool, but it's really kind of pointless in the long run. Like, definitely in PvE, it doesn't save you hardly. Like, the only way you can save yourself is by jumping off a cliff or some stupid shit with it. I mean, look at all the other professions. They have something that stops people from stomping them, and we just don't have that mechanic, and it really, really is frustrating to play.
I think Grasping Earth is supposed to be that. But because it immobilizes your foe, so if they killed you from a distance, then you can use Grasping Earth to slow them down for 3 seconds.
You know how hard it is to pull that off? Like, it's so hard to get that.
It doesn't come up fast enough. They're usually dodged right next to you, and then they're taking you down.
Yeah,
regardless.
Like, it's okay, I guess, but really, for this to be anywhere comparable to any of the other down skills, number 2 has got to do something that stops people from, like, either an interrupt, a knockback, a fear, like, you know how the Necro has. Like, all of these professions have something that stops them from killing them.
A static field.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, a stun or something, so that your teammate can come to your assistance. That's the whole thing that we're lacking right now. And basically, if you fall down as an Ellie and you're 1v1, you're getting stomped. Like, there's no stopping it. Like, it's obviously...
And let me tell you, it's easy to fall down when you've only got 14,000 health and no toughness.
14,000 health is stacking vitality.
Well, that's actually right. Exactly. That's when you have vitality stacked as a secondary thing. So 14,000 is actually a lot for an Elementalist.
Let's get more realistic. I mean, Miane's build that he's famous for using is right around 12.8 to 13k. And, like, that is really kind of the number that you're going to more realistically be looking at. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much weakness going on with the Ellie, and right now we just don't have that stuff that kind of makes that risk worth it.
Yeah, that's why the Elementalist, and then that's what makes the Elementalist kind of tough to talk about, because It has so much really good functionality in the sense that if you've got a staff and you're at the back of a line in World versus World and you're calling down meteor storms and you're throwing fireballs at people, hitting 2 or 3 people at a time, you've got a ton of utility. But anytime you kind of get caught by yourself where you have to engage with an opponent, it's much harder because you're so weak. If you've got teammates to sort of run interference and protect you, then you can do a lot. It's much more of their support is great, but it's their direct fighting that's really difficult.
Yeah, I think support is really, if you guys are playing Ellie right now, if you want to like not rage all over the place and really contribute to your team, just roll support like that. Trait yourself for arcane and water, and then 10 points in whatever you feel necessary, either air or earth. I mean, that's really what you're gonna find yourself excelling at. Like, I feel like that's in a good place right now, and I'm pretty sure Miane would agree because that's why he plays it in structured. But as far as all the damage specs right now, they're really kind of lackluster.
Yep. All right, so let's briefly talk about the traits, sort of like favorite traits of the various trees. So fire magic. What are these? Any of these really good? They sync well with any of your builds. What do you guys like, Miane?
Probably the deal 10% more damage while attuned to fire. That's about it.
There you go. That's the number 6. So you can get that at the first 10 major trait.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense too, because when you're in fire, you want to do damage. Like, that's the whole point of being in fire. So it really kind of works quite well. There's a lot of cohesiveness with that trait, and then the actual function of the attunement.
There's a signet thing in here where you can gain a fire shield if you have a signet build, but again, we talked about a lot of the signets themselves aren't really worth it. What about the top 2 here? Fire fields last 30% longer, and each fire spell you cast adds might for 5 seconds. I think it adds 3 stacks of might, if I'm not mistaken.
I would like to mention this fire field lasts 30% longer. Last time we checked, it's still not working. So
Oh,
it's
it's
better
broken.
we can have been one.
Yeah.
Damn. Because
completely useless.
I envisioned a build, because I use, for example, Lava Font is a fantastic ability in World versus World. If you get the arcane trait that increases your staff's AoE, it becomes damn near as big as the normal meteor storm, and it kills it, and it hits everything inside of it better than the meteor storm does. It's much less random. So what I will use the Lava Font for is to clear a wall section. Like if there's a bunch of people on the wall firing at the ram, I will use Lava Font constantly on the wall because it's a really low cooldown already. Now if you, for example, get fire fields to last 30% longer, and then you also get the 20% faster recharge, you can keep that fire font or the lava font up almost all the time. I hadn't actually, tested it, but that was something that I had been playing around with, like thinking like, oh, maybe that's what I should do. But if you're telling me it's broken, I'm pissed. Now it won't work.
Yeah, it doesn't function properly right now. Yep.
All right, air magic. Let's talk air magic. So fire field, 20% chance to cause burning whenever a foe attacks you in melee. That feels so weak for a 5, minor trait. Even a minor trait, it only when a melee opponent attacks you, you have a 20% chance to cause burning.
And only when you're attuned to fire as well.
Yeah. That just feels really low. Like, if it should be, at the very least, I wouldn't mind it if it was 20% chance to cause burning all the time. Not only in melee, but also against, ranged foes. I wouldn't mind it then. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but honestly, I don't see anything in the fire line that really
stands out.
Yeah, that really stands out to make me want to go into fire, other than just getting the raw power. Like, seriously, that's about the only thing that really stands out to me.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And so let's go on to air here. Air's got some very interesting ones. Firstly, you move 10% faster when you're in it, which is freaking awesome, by the way. But that's awesome if you're not using a staff, because like we said, if you have a staff, you probably have permanent swiftness anyway. But if you're not using a staff, if you're using dagger, this can be really useful. And let's see, auras gain swiftness. What do you guys love in this tree? You guys go in this tree at all?
Yeah, well, right off the 10-pointer, you can go for. If you're moving around the map quickly, there's the movement ability that builds as you longer that you're in air, which is pretty nice. Then as far as like actual playability, like you got the quick glyphs, which you can reduce the cooldown of all your glyph spells, which includes your heal as well. So you can make your heal drop and cooldown as well, which is really, really nice. Plus your elite that you're probably using. So that's a really, really good skill. Also, there is the do 20% more damage to people under 25% health, which is an extra added benefit to having those 10 points placed in air. Going past that point into 20 and 30 points as far as air attunement is concerned, or air line, you really have to be focused specifically on burst builds in order for me to kind of validate putting that many points into that trait line.
Yeah. I'm not super interested in anything else there. Miane?
Not really. I mean, I used to lie.
He used to turn his microphone off while talking?
We've lost a man down.
My bad. Anyways, what I was saying is I used to like the grounded trait. You deal 20% more damage to knockdown and stun foes. So what I used to do is wait for my air elemental to stun someone, and then I will drop on them like, you know, any arcane or stuff, and then I will updraft them. Yeah, anything I could do quick while they're stunned. Then use the updraft and do the whole Dragon's Tooth Phoenix combo, and like usually you could get it in with a 20% extra damage, but lately not been going really deep into air because it's not really worth it.
I have a cat. No, go away, cat. I don't know why the cat's here. All right. So Earth Magic. This is one of the ones that I feel like I would actually go to the end for, because the maintain passive effects of signets when you would activate them is a really cool ability. I mean, I liked my signet build. I just didn't feel super effective, but I really kind of like that concept. Now, what the current build that I have is for PvE, and it's a condition damage build, and I actually go all the way. I got 30 points in Earth and 30 points in Arcane, and I get 30 points in Earth, but I don't take Rock Shield or Written in Stone. I actually go with not Signets recharge faster. What is it? Gain Armor of Earth when health reaches 50%. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a
I like
super
that.
strong trait.
And then I get 10% more damage. Oh no, bleeds you apply last 20% longer, and Earth weapons recharge 20% faster. Those are the three that I go with. I actually don't use any of the top two. I don't like them as much as the other ones when I'm doing my current build.
Yeah, and to me, it really feels kind of like, I don't know, when you get to those final tiers and you feel like the lower tiered traits are better, it doesn't make any sense to me. So then that, you know, plays an impact on me psychologically that will tell me not to put that many points in there if there's no reason to get to that stage. Like, does that make any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, the best skills, their best traits should be at the end of the line, thus giving you a reason to go all the way to the end of the line.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree.
But I do like going to the end of the line just so I can get those three things. I like the Earth skills recharging faster because the two at the end of the staff, the two CC ones are really nice, and I like getting Eruption going really just eruption against a group of people in World versus World that are just sitting there not noticing Eruption is going off under their feet and just bleeding, stacking them. Anyway, Water is Miane's one of Miane's favorites. What traits do you like in Water, Miane?
I like, first off, the 10 point cleansing wave. Removing a condition from you and your allies when you're attuned to water. That's virtually like right there. You have a 9-second cooldown, like group wipe for one condition, because you're gonna be going third to arcane. Like, don't lie to yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
Then if you combine that, like if you go all the way deep into the trade line and you see 30 points cleansing water, where you remove a condition when granting regeneration to yourself or an ally, that's where you see like the strength of yourself as a, you know, as a support. Like, there's your entire build in 2 trades basically, because you will be providing regeneration to your team when you're swapping into water, and if you have the Dwayne runes, also when you're using your own heal, you're applying regeneration. So it is a lot of vibes going on. It also has one of the best minor traits, which is the healing ripple, the healing nearby allies when you tune to water. It is one of the highest base like heals in the game right now.
Oh, wow.
It is around 1.8k base once you're deep into this line, and if you're using any amulet with healing power in it, it goes up to 2.4k, and
So
that's in a
just
9-second cooldown.
I attune to water, and everybody around me gains about 2,000 health.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
that
pretty
is
much.
powerful.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. I mean, honestly, this is the only thing that's really keeping the Ellie above. No, oh man, these puns. It's the only thing that's keeping the Ellie above water right now. Is the fact that these support abilities are very strong, right? And it really shines. And Miani uses it really effectively in SPVP as a support Ellie, and you can really see the strength of that regeneration build and whatnot. But that's definitely something that is done well on the Ellie. So we're really happy with that for sure.
This powerful aura one always confused me because when you look at auras and you see there's like one...
They're all over the weapon sets.
Yeah, they're all over the weapon sets. Like there's 4 auras and they're basically... I think there's 2 if you do double daggers. Like that's the only place you get 2. Or maybe a scepter dagger is the only way you get 2. Otherwise you only ever get 1. Why would you waste a 3rd tier trait just to make a single skill that's on like a 30-second cooldown apply to allies as well? It seems so weak.
So there was this build in the very first beta that was an aura build, and basically from the fire line you could get it every time you activated a signet. You would get a fire aura, right? Then you would get the ability, so you would use all signets as your utilities, okay? And your heal skill as well. And you would get the ability to share your auras whenever you applied themselves, and then you would get the trait that gave you boons based on the aura. Like, so you would get swiftness and fury and protection if you added an aura to yourself or ally, right? So basically you could continuously chain your signets over and over again and spam your area with auras. Meanwhile, you know, using the auras that you had available on your weapons and giving all these people massive amounts of boons and protection and swiftness and all this good stuff. But what they did when they restructured the trait lines, you know how they like put it to where you could only access it after a certain amount of points or whatever, they basically broke that build entirely, thus making pretty much all of the traits that revolve around auras pretty much pointless.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's see. What else do we got here? Arcana, one of the favored trees. Like we said, I mean, you almost always put 30 points in here, and there's a lot of really good traits in here. From what I can see, in the minor traits are really strong. Grant yourself Fury for 2 seconds when you switch attunements. I mean, that's like 2 seconds of plus 20% crit chance. That's pretty awesome. The lingering elements, I think this one's broken from what I've been reading. It doesn't work for all skills, but attunement bonuses are supposed to linger. That's things like, you know, when you're in water, you add regeneration, and when you're in earth, you get toughness and things like that. But that doesn't seem to be working for all skills. Skills have a chance to apply conditions on critical hits. That's kind of nice. The arcane precision, whatever. But the traits themselves are what's great. Arcane mastery, 20% faster on arcane skills. That's one of the reasons that Arcane Blast was so strong, because it had a low cooldown, and this made it even lower. I think this turns it into a 16-second critical hit. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a good tier or a 10-point trait for sure. I find myself though gravitating towards the I can't remember what it's called. Elemental something. Basically,
Elemental attunement.
Elemental attunement, yeah.
Yeah, whenever you attune to a different thing or different attunement, it gives a different area of effect, right? And that just is so strong. Like earth protection, fire might, water regeneration, air swiftness. Like for me, I will spend 10 points on that every day. No problem.
And this is then reviving stamina. You have a 33% chance to gain vigor on critical hits. That could work well if you're stacking precision. Not my current thing, but that seems like it works well. The master traits are really interesting. The endurance recharges faster when wielding a scepter, which is actually significantly faster. I tested it. It's pretty significantly faster, and it does make a big difference. You can dodge a lot more with the vigorous scepter. Blasting staff is amazing in World v World. All of your AoE things get like 25% larger. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's good.
Arcane Energy is kind of nice. Arcane and Signet skills restore 25% endurance. That works really well with Evasive Arcana, which is the Grandmaster one, that adds that attunement at the end of the dodge. This is one of Miane's that he loves, that he uses a lot.
Yeah, the beauty about this trait is that not only is it giving you all the spells, with also don't share an internal cooldown like all of them, but they're all blast, right? So you have all these fills and you have all this blast that you can chain with them. So it just makes up for really great combinations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This trait is a must-have really at the moment for pretty much any Elementalist in any build. Every time I don't have it, I wish I had it, and every time I do have it, I'm glad I have it. I guess that's pretty much the definition of a perfect trait, and Evasive Arcana is 2 thumbs up.
Yep, absolutely. Like I mentioned before, I use Elemental Surge in my build, and I find it really useful, at least while I'm doing PvP in World versus World in the way that I'm using it, because it makes clearing PvE really fast, because I'll start in Fire Spec, I'll use Arcane Blast and Arcane Wave to throw fire burning on everybody, and then I'll switch over to Earth and throw bleeding on all of them, and they're all dead from DPS in like 2 seconds. So that's what I usually use it for.
Yep.
But that's kind of nice as well. All right. That, I think, covers a whole lot of stuff about the Elementalist. Any final thoughts here that we didn't cover? You know, should we talk about clothing? You know, what's awesome?
I hate every single weapon for Elementalist. They're the least visual. Like, staffs all look lame. Daggers, you can really tell their details. So, really don't like any of the visuals from Elementalist, personally.
Zoom in on this Hoochie Mama, Bridger. Check this girl out. This is my Ellie in game right now, and she has got it going on.
Are those exotics?
That's all I got to say. This is a pretty common armor setup as far as skins are concerned. I do have a bunch of sets. This is just my Magic Find set that I'm wearing right now. But the staff that I'm using right here is actually the base legendary for the Bifrost, which I'm sure everybody's really excited about making here. So the base is kind of lackluster as far as the skin is concerned.
I can see what Miane's talking about. Like, oh, it's 3 green balls. Well then.
Basically.
Yeah, but I know the armor on the human Ellie females is really good. Like I kind of like pardon my French, but I like the slutty look or whatever. I'm a perv, I guess. But yeah, the staff legendary is really cool though, and I'm almost there. I'm literally probably going to be one of the first to have the legendary staff, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I see you in the dungeons like all the time on TeamSpeak.
Gosh,
you're always
so
in
much
there.
grinding, so much grinding going on. As between the time spent World vs. World and working on this legendary, my whole schedule is packed. But yeah, you guys can check me out there at the TLI drops on Twitch there. I'm going to be showing some of the final parts of the legendary as well. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll show it to you here within the next week.
All right, guys, sorry about that. We had a bit of technical difficulties right there. The power suddenly went out in the middle of the ending of the show. Luckily, we were just about finished with everything we had to say, so just wanted to send a shout-out to Tim, a.k.a. Faint. Hope you'll feel better there, buddy. And thanks, you guys, for watching. Remember, talesoftyria.com is the website, and you can find more of us on the YouTubes. If you search for Tales of Tyria or go to Sound Strategy Network is the username you can find us at. I'm Bridger. For any other guys, I'm signing off. Have a good one.